don't despair if you don't. This is about you being able to think and come up with what is supposed to appear there anyway before it does. So that's only a secondary aid. It's only to help you then to retain that after we already start talking about it. But it's still completely fine if you can't see it for the purposes of this presentation, because as it is with speaking, you don't get any visual aids anyway of this kind when you're supposed to speak publicly in any way, shape or form. So you still should try to train your ability to use your brain to hold on to information, because it will come in handy. So first a question: what do you think are the greatest problems? The greatest problems if you try to do public speaking, which means stand in front of any number of people and try to speak so that everyone can listen to you. What would you say are the biggest problems? Yes?
So one of the biggest fears for people is to say something that would sound ridiculous, or like people would think him for a stupid person.
Yes, I think fear is the important word. Any other ideas than fear?
How to maintain attention.
Yeah, sure. So how to do it well in general.
Some people are shy.
Yes, could be something like fear, but it could be just, they're not very, how to say, well, in a positive sense, maybe they're not egotistical, so they don't think like everybody should be listening to them when they speak. But yeah, sure. So we have shyness, we have fear, and we have some lack of skill.
Yeah, when you are not, when you haven't that good type of language and you're not know that many words, you could repeat something instead of
Yes.
one.
I think that's a good overview. I would add a couple more based on my experience with public speaking, and specifically one: if you say that you are afraid of coming in front of people, that's one thing that has a name and it's called something specific. And also, when you do stand in front of people like I do now, you can have a feeling. Do you know what's the name for that feeling? It's a kind of anxiety, but it is a specific feeling. When the fear, well, it's not necessarily a fear. In this case, it's more an anxiety because you have already decided to stand in front of people, so you're already there. It's called. Yes, I can hear that. Who said that? Say it. So someone on this side of the room has said it. I believe. Or I have hallucinations. It's very early in the morning, but I think I heard it. It's called stage fright. Yeah, so somebody maybe. Yeah. So stage fright. Stage fright is generally it's generally the name for the feeling of anxiety that you get when you stand in front of people, and that is one of the main problems. Once you decide actually to go stand in front of people, I would actually say that specifically the fear of public speaking, I believe, is called glossophobia, and that is a very common fear. If you're afraid of standing in front of people and speaking, it just means that you are very normal, because I think it's somewhere around 3/4 of people almost that are afraid of public speaking, and I believe it is the most common fear actually, like more common than fear of spiders and more common than fear of heights even, or claustrophobia, fear of confined spaces. So it's actually a very common fear. And even if you decide, if you overcome it initially, and it's not something that would completely paralyze you, you will still get stage fright, probably, if you try to speak in front of people. But that shouldn't stop you. That's just normal. There are ways of dealing with this, and I will try to give you some ideas on how to overcome it at the beginning. Then, of course, it is lack of confidence, even if you didn't have stage fright, which is related to the lack of skill, or you maybe don't think that you're prepared enough, or that you're a good enough speaker to begin with. So that's something that can be worked on also and can be overcome in time. So that's also not that much of a problem. The two other problems that are mentioned there are kind of specific, and you will probably run into them once you start trying to speak publicly. And those are if you constantly acknowledge your mistakes that you're making. Because if you try to speak in front of people, one of the things that really doesn't look good is if you say something and then you stop and then you obviously look like you've done something wrong, and then people can tell because you communicate to them that you've done something wrong. Let me give you a question. First, do any of you do theater? So who does theater? Don't be shy. Okay. Me too. Okay, so if you're doing the theater, if you're in a play, let's say, and you have a script for that play, right? You have to learn words before for the particular play. If you forget to say something that you were supposed to say, can the audience know?
No.
No, they don't have the script in their hands. They're probably not telepaths. So, yes.
When it's popular play, they can know.
Well, sure. If it's okay, maybe if you're playing Shakespeare, then yeah, and then you mess up the line to be or not to be, then yeah, then probably if you leave half of that out, somebody will notice. But a lot of the times it's it could be original play, so then of course there's no chance of that. Or it could be something that it's from a non-author, but not everyone knows every single word in like an hour-long play that was supposed to be said. And for public speaking, it definitely is the case that they don't have the script. You may have been preparing, but they don't know what exactly you decided beforehand that you are supposed to say. So unless you communicate to the people that you have forgotten to say something or that you've said something wrong, most of the time they have no way of knowing. So first, there's a very basic trick. That's why I say it at the very beginning, because it's super simple. Just don't acknowledge that you think that you've done something wrong. You just continue on, like, even if you do something actively, that's something that you are not supposed to do. When I was at the recitation competition, I did switch the order of the paragraphs in the text that I was supposed to say, but it turned out that that way it was better. So I just rolled with it, and everybody had a positive response to that, because if you always look like everything was planned that you're doing, then people will believe it. Because again, they're not telepaths. They can't read your thoughts, so at least most of the time, maybe there are a few, but most of the time they will not be able to do that. So the general rule of thumb is if you think you've screwed up, just don't acknowledge it. And the other kind of problem, which is if you try to deal with to prevent ever doing any error and to over-preparing, that's also a problem. Because many beginners, when they try to speak publicly, do this kind of mistake. They prepare every single thing that they want to say, especially if it's a speech, like write it down word for word, and they just want to stick exactly 100% to what they've written down, or try to memorize. The problem with that is that the audience is a living, responding entity. And you have to always be aware, as I am trying to be, whether your audience is losing interest or if they're falling asleep. And at that time, you may be throwing a joke, because at that time it is necessary. So public speaking, if it is to be good, always has to be improvisational to an extent. I can prepare a lecture all I want, but I just know what I have prepared is a set of things that I should probably say, but I am not married to the order in which I say them, or how exactly I say each part, or maybe how much time I will devote to which part, because I can't beforehand decide how you will respond to every one of those things. So just at the very beginning, I would say those are the main problems of people who try to speak publicly, and all of these can be overcome relatively easily, actually. Now, the number one thing that you should do, would you guess what it is? What is like the number one thing then, number one suggestion, that what you should do therefore under any circumstances when you speak publicly in front of people? What you try to accomplish, what you should try to do? To be something.
To be confident.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Be confident. See, you're reading my mind already. Be confident. It's very simple. It's very simple. Because it's also a thing about the tone of voice. If you want to be an effective public speaker, you cannot achieve that if you at least don't sound confident when you speak. There are some easy tricks how to achieve confidence, or at least something that resembles confidence, because if you can't actually be confident, like internally feeling it, that I know what I'm doing and I know I'm doing it right, then of course you have to fake it. But faking confidence is easier than you might think. Faking confidence is actually quite easy. And the idea of confidence, and as like everything with speaking in general, is people interact with your speech by listening to it. So by changing what kind of sounds you're making, you're changing their perception. It sounds obviously, but the idea is that there is something like a confident tone or a confident diction. And you don't have to be internally confident, but if you say it in a way which sounds confident, then people will read it as you being confident. Unless they, I don't know, they're psychologists and they can see, subtle indicators in your face or something. But that's the thing. In public speaking, you're generally at certain distance from most of the audience, so they don't even see details. They will not see directly into your eyes, even though you may think that they do. They will most likely don't see details of your face. Definitely not from a distance that, a few meters away from you. So what they read is actually, broader gestures that you're doing. So let's see, what are some confident things that you can do, or ways in which you can fake confidence? One of the things is volume and tempo. Again, it sounds super obvious, but many people do this wrong, even though it's very simple to not do it wrong. Especially volume. Because I could speak at a volume that doesn't work for the room to which I'm speaking. I could be speaking very loudly, and then you'd probably think that I've gone insane or something. Or I could be speaking very quietly, and then you wouldn't hear me at all. And I would sound nervous, even if I'm not. Because that's the thing. You have to manage the volume right. That's super simple. That's like you have ears. You hear yourself, like the volume of the speech that you're making. And it's very important, because certain level of volume based on the room, so that everybody hears you, sounds confident or more confident than any alternative. And that's simple. As for the tempo, I'm trying to speak at a specific speed so that it's keeping your interest, but it's not too fast for you so that you couldn't follow. Because of course I could start speaking very slowly, and then in 5 minutes you would all be asleep. Or I could start speaking very quickly, and then you wouldn't probably be able to make notes or listen or even think about what I'm saying as I'm saying. So the speed again. If you're speaking too fast, it doesn't sound confident. If you're speaking too slow, then again, it doesn't exactly sound confident. And people will read it as something else. They will read it like you're boring, or they will read it like you're nervous, or they will read it like something else. So just these very simple things. That's why I try to talk about this at the beginning, because whatever you're trying to do, it doesn't matter what the content is of the speech, or what the purpose is of the speech. You want to be in a play, in a theater, you want to debate, you want to, I don't know, get political supporters to vote for you. You can, whatever you want, these things always have the same effect and always work exactly the same. Eye contact. Now, I said before that you cannot actually, see directly into the eyes of a person if they're too far away, or it's not something that really gives you much detail at that distance. But the eye contact essentially means that you have to at least look like you're talking to the audience, which very simply they can definitely see where your head is pointing in general direction. So some people who have this anxiety or fear have trouble looking directly into the eyes of the members of the audience, even though they don't see all that much at the distance, because that's making them nervous. But still, you can at least try to look over their heads, so that everybody thinks that you're looking into the eyes of people, because they only can see the direction in which your head is aimed. That's something that if you've played in a theater, they probably should have told you at some point, that in a play, if you want to make it clear that you're looking at something, you have to turn the head. because only then people, even from at a distance, will know that you're looking at something. If I try to look at something in that direction, but I just look by my eyes, then it might be difficult to tell for you at a certain distance where I'm actually looking. So you have to just aim the head generally in the direction of people. Because some speakers, if they're nervous, or that's something, they might not be nervous, but they're communicating nervousness. If they, look into the ground as they're speaking. Because that looks sort of, catatonic. It's like, there's no one in this room, I'm just talking to myself. Or, like, there are other, like, what are other options? Like, sometimes people, like, they would, just, like, look at flies, the ceiling, on the walls. Or they would, like, really do anything to avoid the area in which they are supposed to be looking. Because they're nervous. So there's also a thing about nervous tics, like just you think that somebody's after you, so you're constantly looking over your shoulder, or looking up. Squirrel outside distracts you with something. So again, maintaining the eye contact means having your head pointed in the general direction of the people that you're talking to. And it's super simple. Like you can know very easily. You can know very easily whether you're doing that or not. Then you, of course, have all the gestures and facial expressions, because at the distance, gestures are something that's much more visible than your actual head or face. So you can use actually the gestures to distract everybody from looking at you directly. Gestures is just one problem if you're doing them in a way that doesn't make any sense, because certain gestures are only logical if you use them to communicate what you're showing, because some gestures are very, usually directly showing what you're talking about. One of the examples is, someone, if they're nervous, they would do mistakes like, in a debate, for instance, they want to talk about, the price is rising, or the price is getting down, or, like, how they really hate someone, or, that's so nice. So like the gesture should reflect what this general idea. And other thing that people may do wrong, and that looks nervous again, is if you have a nervous stick. You only make one kind of gesture and you make it constantly. And every time you say something, just maybe rhythm or no rhythm, you just go like that. And it just this, like, you can always call it something like chopping cabbage. It's like something. It's just like, okay, you do something. You shouldn't do stereotypically repeating gestures. And that is the case. Even like you could be not necessarily doing just something with your hands, but also with posture. Proximity is a specific thing, I will then mention separately. But posture, there are certain postures that are confident and certain postures that are not. The confident posture, the basic confident posture is open upright. That's something that you can do to, again, signal, communicate confidence. So you just standing in such a way that you are upright, which indicates something like I'm not sure if it's in all of your languages the saying that to have a spine or to not have a spine. It's like you're showing that you're not afraid, you can stand firm, you do have a spine, so you can be trusted. So that's this kind of thing. The kind of nervous posture is the hunchback of Notre Dame. If you have like hunched, the head again looking down maybe. But if you're just talking like that, then this posture indicates lack of confidence, because this is subservient nervous posture. Then you can do a lot of things, a combination of posture and using your hands. Some certain things indicate that you're nervous, you're afraid. Like if you're in a defensive posture like this, then it probably means that you're close to the audience and you want to have a wall between you and them and you want to defend yourself. Or you can have like a straight jacket. You can have like you just hold your hands behind your body. So these are some postures that indicate combinations with gestures that indicate that you're not necessarily confident or comfortable in the speaking situation. The most confident and the most comfortable is upright open with free range of expression with your hands, like wizards, and you're trying to charm the audience. Then you can do whatever you want, and it should flow with the rhythm of expression. And sometimes when you can make a gesture that is logical in regards to what you're saying, then do something like if you're begging someone, then you can do the gesture for begging, for instance, for a split second. You just shouldn't do the same gesture all over again. If you spend all your speech with this kind of gesture, then it looks like maybe you're Mormon or something. So again, and all of these things are super simple to keep track of. You know where your head is pointed, at least if you become for a moment aware of what you're doing. You have ears, so you hear how loudly you're speaking or how fast you're speaking. And if you have eyes, then you can be looking at the people and you see, for instance, if they're getting sleepy or it's very early in the morning. So maybe you should try to do something that's a little bit funny. So those are the basic things. That's kind of strange, but it's not hard to do. It's just people don't think about it generally. It's called proxemics or proximity. Do you know what the word proximity means? Anyone? Proximity is distance, essentially, from something. So there are different ways in each room. Like this is probably not a very optimal room because there are a lot of separations in the room and I have to speak to you at a weird angle. But in proxemics, if it's like debating, then this would be the speaker's table. And you can stand behind the speaker's table. That would be the normal place for most people to speak. And the speaker's table would be somewhere in the middle or right in front of everyone. But there are other places I could be in this room, but they would indicate, again, something different. For instance, if I wanted to really indicate that I'm afraid of you and don't want to be near you, then I could talk from a weird distance from you. Like, especially if you're getting like at the wall kind of territory, then I don't have to say anything else, and this already doesn't communicate confidence. And so just where you stand can make a difference. Then speakers who want to be closer to the audience, be more interactive, may often try to walk close to the audience, literally, and speak to them from a closer distance. And they would do that to create a greater connection with the audience. So even in a debating, some debaters just walk from behind the speaker's post, the speaker's table, and they will just come right to the people and talk directly to them. And it changes the dynamic, just the distance, nothing else. So you should be, ideally, everything should be just right, just right volume, just right tempo, just right distance from people. Gestures that work with what you're saying, as opposed to no gestures or repetitive gestures, which shouldn't be the case. And also the posture, you should try to stand upright. And if you do at least most of these, somewhat right, and you're generally speaking at people, then what you're communicating is confidence. You may feel terribly. You may have terrible stage fright and be super anxious or, depressed, angry, doesn't matter. People can't read that. They don't see into your brain. They can only read what you're saying. Of course it helps if you communicate something to be in the emotional state that resonates with your message. That of course makes it stronger. That's why some actors go method. Method actors. Have you heard about that? Method actor. Well, who is a method actor? What's the method of a method actor?
He's always trying to be in character, even if it's not something or playing a role.
Yeah.
In his everyday life, he's trying to be like a character.
Yes. So it sometimes gets to a funny extent, but that's the thing. Yes, it does help. If your internal state resonates with your message, then it always enhances the message, and it always takes more energy to try to be, for instance, positive and energetic when you're tired. But you can still do it. You can still do it if you just follow these basic things and you communicate the things that you want to communicate, like confidence. So standing upright, looking at people, speaking at the right volume, speaking at the right speed based on how you're seeing them, if they're falling asleep or not, and using gestures and just, not doing anything completely illogical, because the key here is to be natural. Because if you're natural, then then it looks that everything's fine, then you look confident. Most people who, if they're anxious, they get into a state that makes them actually do very unnatural things that they would never do if they weren't as anxious. But again, that's, on some level, your mind can control your body, I hope. So you can control yourself even if you're anxious.